So I think overall our effort through the day has been to leverage the opportunity of all the members who are staying home today, who have supported the Janta curfew, to sort of bring them together, connect with them, and also engage with them on topics which are of relevance and utility. I think the sessions were very participative. We have on average at least about 50-60 people coming in for each of the sessions, participating a lot. So I think the overall spirit of one supporting the curfew by staying indoors and being proactively engaged was what was the broad agenda. I think that went on well. I think we also heard back from um, people from the authorities, civic agencies, saying that hey, it's been a very creative way in which you people have spent the day. We also had an opportunity, of course, I'm sure everybody would have stepped out at 5 o'clock to thank all the people out there who are keeping us safe, putting their lives in the line. I think lots of videos received from people on on the celebration of gratitude, if I were to put it that way. That has come into us as well. Through the day, we also had a lot of media guys being in touch with us, seeking inputs in information on how apartments are managing and things. We've been doing that as well. So we come to the end of the day, and it's I think important for us to lay down our sense of preparedness for the next few days. I think we have had a slew of announcements today from the government as well. You must have heard in terms of there being extended lockdowns being put in place for the next at least till 31st March, beginning of April. We are still trying to get a sense of what doesn't it mean, what is out, what is in, to interpret it for our members. We also had an opportunity to, I mean, we are in touch with authorities from BBMP. In fact, I've invited a couple of special commissioners to see if they can join into this session today. Very unlikely. I think they're all stretched and they're all putting their best efforts out there. But nevertheless, I said, hey, if possible, please join in because it's a web meeting. They've said that they'll try. So I thought I'd spend some quick time to give people a sense of where we are and what are we shaping up for. In the past few days, for us at BAF, at the governing council, at the cluster leaders, etc., we've been trying to get around fast progressing situation. We've been hard at work at bringing together a lot of information, input, advisories, guidelines, as and when people have been seeking input, because of the fundamental first couple of stages of spread essentially was from people who were traveling in, and hence it was obvious that a lot of our member apartments would have had people who would have come in from travel, etc. So we've supported those stages, and now as we get ready for the next stage where it is imminent that there could be a community spread, I think we would be expected to play a very strong role in the ability of the overall community over here to be able to control the spread, right? Because at the end of the day, I always keep telling this, we always claim that we are 720 apartments, 130,000 households, 5 lakh people. In a case like this, we could be a strong reason for either the spread of the virus or for the control of the virus. I think we should choose the latter, right? If we have the numbers, I think we should have the ability to use those numbers for a mission as critical as this. And hence, my sincere request for the next few days, as the Prime Minister has indicated, I think both resolve and resilience, I think should be in demonstration the next few days. So, just to give you a perspective of what we are quickly preparing for, I hope you can all see my my screen. So last few days we have we've done two things. One, we've put together a BAF COVID-19 task force, which is a team of people. To begin with, it is a team of people which has one lead representative from each cluster. As you know, we have 21 clusters, which is now, of course, getting converted to 23 because we have Whitefield and Bellandur, which has been split into two clusters each. So technically, we have 23 geographical clusters, and the task force today comprises of one lead volunteer from each cluster. We have a separate group, WhatsApp group, where there's an active collaboration and coordination happening on various aspects. We have also been reached out to by EBMP to help facilitate outreach and response preparedness, and towards which this task force will be one of the key teams which will facilitate that interface. To begin with, like I said, it's one person per cluster, but I think, and I am certain that going forward, it might be very, very essential for us to expand the scope of this task force to include many, many more volunteers. And hence, I will appeal right in the beginning to say that, hey, please, this will be an opportunity for our cluster members to throw their hands up and join in and join the mission. We will communicate appropriately as we are expanding that team. For now, I think we have one lead from each of the clusters. So I'll share the details shortly of who is the lead in your area. So you can always be in touch with them to be able to get even your queries answered, etc. As much as possible within this task force, we are trying to stay abreast of all the latest inputs, qualified information, official guidelines, connects with authorities, any support that is required, right? So broadly, if you look at it, I think there are 6 broad areas where the task force and the leadership team at BAF is working on. First part is clear information creation, right? In this, and one of the things that we have seen now, and I'm sure we have all been recipients of this, and we have all been participants on this as well, right? There is extreme extremity in terms of information sharing, right, in the day and age of WhatsApp. So it is becoming very, very tough to determine which is right and which is wrong. For some reason, I think the viral seems to be more potent than virus. So, but yeah, we can't help it, right? And that's the state. That's reality. As much as possible, and we have taken a conscious call that in all the BAF cluster groups for now, we would allow the sharing of anything, any information related to COVID-19 without applying any past moderation rules, simply because of the fact that this is a very critical phase and a very critical need for information to flow through. But having said that, I think the expectation is for everybody to show a good degree of restraint and definitely a strong sense of responsibility. Whenever you share something on the group, please ensure that there is a verification which is done that this is something credible and it has been received from somebody credible, it is qualified, it is verified, and then you share that, right? Even now we are seeing close to 70% of the information which is being shared is extremely conversational, point forwards, etc. While the sharing of that itself, I think, is not potentially controllable, but what it does, and let me highlight this, it actually distracts a lot of people who are focusing on action, people like us, right, on looking at those messages and saying, hey, is this right or wrong? Is there something wrong? Is being disseminated wrongly, right? And hence my sincere appeal is to show great amount of restraint and responsibility when sharing information on BAF WhatsApp groups. If there is something which is being shared which is tangential, not verified, and blatantly not true, that is simply bump it up. So, Vasant Kumar, can you please mute your thing, please? Thanks. Yeah, you'll have to. Ajay, can I request mute control, please?
Yes, I'm muting everyone.
So, I think one sincere request that I had, I think, to have a lot of restraint in terms of sharing of information, at least from our end. What we have now put a focus on within the task force is to be able to assimilate and gather as much as credible information as possible, so that at every stage we are able to give you qualified and verified information which is pertinent to apartment communities, and hence at least whatever comes from officially from BAF, and you will typically see this coming in as messages which are fully in bold. That's a clear indication that it's a formal communication from BAF, and these are verified and qualified inputs. So there is one effort going on to generate and collate clear information, and to that extent, I think we are in touch consistently with different authorities who are also supporting us with credible information. Right? We immediately get official guidelines, protocols which have been shared for dissemination, and to that extent, it's also a reflection of the fact that the authorities are trusting us to be able to do that to our members as well, which is the second part, which is credible information dissemination as well. Right? Are we able to gather the right pieces of information, and are we able to do the dissemination to our members in a timely fashion? Which is where the second point also I think is very important. A lot of times we have seen that when a credible piece of information or an official piece of information is sent, it is immediately flooded and sort of drowned in a sea of so many other forwards that people miss out on important information. Right? So please keep a watch out on the groups where if there is something important formal being shared that needs to have a reasonable amount of recall for people. So please don't drown that with 10 other forwards, which then sort of submerges that information deep inside the group. Right? At this point of time, we are still very dependent on those WhatsApp groups to reach people as quickly as possible. Hence, we seek your cooperation for that. Starting, I think, hopefully by tomorrow, we are also kickstarting a microsite in the BAF website, where all this information will be collated and clearly categorized and available, so that at any point of time, if you want to refer to pieces of information and clarification, you will be able to go to that part of the microsite and be able to refer to the FAQs and clarifications. So that hopefully should be up and running tomorrow. We've also had, I mean, because of the impact, getting anything up and running like this also has been challenging. Our team doing the tech support also are working on limited staff and stuff like that. So hopefully we have this up and running tomorrow. We will share an information. So you will have one spot where all guidelines, all advisories, as it is happening, as it is getting updated, will be available over there. Right? So you can always refer to that. Right? The point number 3, like I mentioned, BBMP had already reached out to us to coordinate and support them. We have immediately thrown our hands up and says, you know what, BAF will be ready to support you, not just in interfacing and playing a leadership role as far as our own members are concerned, but much beyond that. Right? So today our commitment to the authorities is to say that BAF can play a role hand in hand to be able to coordinate any kind of resilience and response efforts inside within the community. So to that extent, please, individually to each of the members, my request is, I mean, irrespective of whether they are a member or not in your locality, in your neighborhood, please be in touch and stay in touch with your neighborhood communities, and any information that we are able to pass on which might be of use to them, please do share actively. Right? This is our way of bringing everybody together, keeping everybody together, and keeping everybody safe. Let's play a role in supporting them. Right? Point number 4, standard operating procedures. Yes, it is connected to the information itself. So we are also trying to put together a lot of notes on what is the SOPs in terms of if you discover a positive case, if there are people who have traveled from abroad, what is the protocol to be followed in terms of home quarantining, etc., and all that kind of stuff. All those things will also be available in the microsite when we announce. We are also putting significant effort, the task force is putting significant effort on keeping some bit of solution preparedness ongoing. We have seen a lot of requests coming in where people are saying, hey, do you have access to somebody who can supply sanitizers, somebody who can do masks, somebody who can do thermometers. So lots of such queries coming in. So I think the team has put some effort to collate a database of potential vendors. They have and each of these people are being verified by reaching out to them, qualifying their, I mean, some degree of I mean, quality of product and also their ability to supply. While these might not be 100% foolproof, but at least from our point of view, what we are doing is we are running a check, reaching out to them and adding names only when there's a certain degree of confidence in those vendors. So that list is also being has been prepared. Many names which have been put over there. We are also extending that list to one more level beyond just the essential commodities and services. We are also looking at the preparedness for some bit of commodity supply for households, which over a period of time now, if there is an extended lockdown, if there is extended periods in which people have to stay home, stay indoors, etc., is there mechanisms in which BAF can facilitate some bit of that supply chain? We're putting some effort on bringing some network on that front as well. My sincere request is that as a community, as a responsible community, let's not indulge in any panic buying. Let's not indulge in any overbuying and overstocking, because I mean that's one sure shot way to negatively affect the preparedness, right? Let me assure you that as far as BAF is concerned, we will give you all the support to be able to uh, stay stay going as much as possible on a daily basis without having to get affected or worried about any of these things. At least as of now, I think there's no risk to the supplies and supply chains. Of course, there has been a bit of challenges in periodic times based on some bit of spikes in people buying, etc. But I don't think so that is a reflection of the availability of supplies, right? If at all anything, it will be a little bit of an up and down, and we are trying to see if we can play a role in facilitating that to our member community. And finally, last but not the least, are we really building an emergency response and management mechanism as the community stage starts hitting? I think yes, we need to be able to roll up our sleeves and be ready to play roles at different levels. At least today, the task force is the team which has come together first to say that, hey, I throw my hand up and will be able to play a role. As I mentioned earlier, I think it might be a necessity for us to expand this team as we go along, and hence my sincere request to stay open and stay ready to join hands, because this is a mission which I think is not likely to be small or not likely to be short. It will run long, it will run deep. So, and hence we need to be able to ready for it, right? So this is broadly the area of preparedness. I'll also quickly run through the list of the task force for your respective areas. I don't know if you are able to see the sheet. So BAF North 1, we have Satish Malya from Century Saras, who's we'll probably share this also at some point of time so that you can stay in touch with these people for any queries. Satish Malya from North 1, Century Saras. We have Raghu Raghutaman from Sriram Sadhana, BAF North 2. We have Usha, the cluster president as well from Sarvagna Nagar, who's taken the lead. We have Arun Kumar, our vice president, who's taken the lead in Malleshwaram. We have Vasant Kumar in Tengeri from Mahavir Lakes, who's taken the lead. We have Shiv Prasad, cluster secretary from RR Nagar, Rajarashri Nagar, also taken the lead in Rajarashri Nagar. We have Arun, the vice president, taking charge of West as well. We didn't have anybody who took the lead there or ownership there. If there's somebody in this call who's from BAF West, and if you're interested, please nominate yourself. Then we have SK Anand, cluster president from Ashwini Apartments in Banashankari. We have Sundar Rajan from Shobha Opal, from again cluster president BAF Jayanagar, who's also leading the efforts there. We have Lata Shri from Prestige St. John's Woods from PTM Layout. She is the cluster president as well. We have Avinash Hegde from Sundale Apartments, who has taken the ownership for BAF Central. We have Colonel Rajiv from Tata Sherwood, who is part of the KR Puram cluster. Sri Krishna Ranade from Springfield Apartments in CV Raman Nagar. We have Sita Ramaswamy from Acme Encore from BAF. Just in case, Sita, quick input. If you guys are now splitting into two clusters, if you want, I think please check with your cluster leadership group also. There are two more nominees who need to come into this group. Just let me know. Okay.
Okay.
we have Vinod Pillai from BAF Belandur. Vinod, for Belandur also similar input would be appropriate. I think now it's 2 clusters. But anyway, I'll have a conversation with the cluster leaders as well. So right now, Vinod is leading and interfacing there. We have Lalita, who's from the cluster leadership team of HSR Layout from Akriti Silver Line. We have KC Ramakrishnan, JP Nagar cluster president from Brigade Millennium Magnolia, who's leading the interface over here. We have Raji Khandige from SNN Raj Lakeview, who's representing Banerghatta Road cluster. We have Harish Shivaraman, our treasurer, who's leading the for Bangalore South as well as for Electronic City. If anybody from Electronic City wants to take that roll up, please put your hands up and let us know. We'll co-opt you in. And we have Srividya
Yes.
Murli. Anybody hear a name?
Yes, Alok Bosch from Electronic City.
Alok ji, one of us will connect with you and loop you in. Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
And just a little, I mean, we had queries from people from Electronic City saying that, hey, are you coordinating with BBMP? Does it apply to us, etc.? I think this is a mission where don't worry about that. For us, BAF, all clusters are there. So any amount of response and preparedness will include all the clusters. So we will be there to see how we can interface with any of the authorities locally. Finally, BAF Begur, we have Srividya Murli, who's the secretary of that cluster as well, who's taken up. Just to give you a sense of spread, across all the kinds of topics that have been focused on, and lots of guidelines and advice has been built. So what you're seeing on the screen is also a little bit of the spread of the way.
HS5, please mute. HS5, please mute.
Yeah, if you see, and this is also, and this is something which we have been following as a framework within our task force and the governing council as well. But I think just as a scope check for somebody in the committee, I think it is important for you to know what are all the aspects that you will be confronted with during this situation. And this is a quick ready reckoner as far as you're concerned to be able to know. I think there's one category of something called as perimeter rules, which is essentially about entry exit of various kinds of people who are coming in and going. This has evolved over a period of time. I think in stage 1 and stage 2, there's a certain characteristic. I think now going into a lockdown kind of a mode, this will take a slightly different shape now. But I think what you need to understand is to say that at any given point of time, are you very clear about what kind of perimeter guidelines and rules that you are putting together, so that everybody is clear in terms of the entry exit criteria, right? Then there is a category of traveler discovery and quarantine support over the period of last couple of weeks. Starting from beginning of March, late February to beginning of March, I think there have been different kinds of guidelines on people coming in, traveling in from abroad, and protocols on quarantining, home quarantining, etc. Right now, you see in this box international traveler, but I think what we hear is that there could be some bit of guidelines which is coming in even for people traveling domestically. I think that's an update as of today. We will try to gather more details on what is the repercussions of that, but at least as far as the international travelers are concerned, I think the guidelines have been fairly clear. Starting from March 1st, everybody who's traveling from a international country were under instruction to be home quarantined for a period of 14 days. I think subsequently there has also been a movement of placing a seal on the upper palm of the people who are coming in, so that there is a clear indication of the people who have quarantined, who have quarantined today. There is also an outreach by the BBMP and the Bangalore police team to communities and households where there are presence of people who have to be quarantined. So this is now a very established piece of rule to say that if you have come from abroad, you have to be quarantined for 14 days, right? So both from the people who are coming in as well as the communities which are into which they are coming in have distinct categories of responsibilities in terms of how they manage the situation. I think we have seen examples where both, if both have behaved responsibly, it has been a very, very conducive situation. There have been very heartwarming examples which have come from different member communities of how both the people who have come in have shown great degree of responsibility, and people who are committees and neighbors over there have showed great degree of empathy and support to help them through their quarantine phase. But traveler discovery and quarantine support is one key category, and as and supported aspects on community contact, social distancing, etc., which flow in from there as well. So the social distancing aspect is one more key category where the committee will need to re-emphasize to your residents repeatedly and consistently, especially because I think in the last few weeks, at least that has been my understanding and my feeling, the real criticality and importance of social distancing has not been absolutely felt. I think we have seen clearly people flouting and at least not taking it seriously in various places. If there is any time to now take that seriously, I think it is now. So, and hence, as committees, there will be great degree of responsibility and onus to be able to proliferate that message of seriousness, right? So, social distancing guidelines. How do you help people during the stage of social distancing? How do you ensure that there is as much reduction of contact as possible in common surfaces, hygiene to maintain that, right? So that's one category. The other thing which will now start becoming very obvious as we move towards the next phase is the category of case discovery and management. And it is but imperative that I think there will be more and more spread. We will find people turning positive. We need to be ready for it. So this will include how do you even determine a positive case identification? What do you do immediately after that? What is the handover protocol to the authorities? How do they come and support you when there's a positive case? How do you collaborate with them on the whole community containment exercise? Including
Vikram, kindly increase the font. Not able to see. Kindly increase the font. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think this is one more category where committee members and people in roles of responsibility need to prepare themselves for. Of course, we will definitely support and guide with all possible sort of inputs. But I think this is a piece which will become critical and obvious in the days to come. Like I mentioned, we are also putting some effort on preparation of essential services. Security, housekeeping, waste, medical waste. There are queries which have come on saying that what do we do with medical waste if there are cases of people who are quarantining themselves, etc. What's the protocol with households, cooks, drivers now that there are multiple levels of lockdowns? What's the scene with other healthcare providers who are regularly coming and supporting our patients? Association staffs, is there supply of water and things like that? So these are all, let me put it that way, I think there are no absolute answers for everything, but having said that, I think as much as possible, as the situation is evolved, we'll keep you posted on this. The last category of emergency preparation, which is two types I already mentioned, COVID commodities, which is all the things which are required in terms of containment, and second is in terms of building support line for households. So this is broadly, I think, a sort of spread on topics that a committee member or an association, committee members from an association would need to keep in mind and handy. I think we'll need to build some wisdom and knowledge to guide your communities on this part. Like I said, we are in full preparation and readiness for the next steps. My appeal once again is for all of you to demonstrate as much responsibility, restraint, and leadership as possible. We are counting on all of you to join hands in the coming days. For if this requires a massive community effort, I think BAF should be one of the lead communities in Bangalore to take this up, and we are counting on you. So I'll pause at this point of time. Nagaraj sir, would you have anything to advise, guide, anything that you would want to share?
You can tell them about the ownership of each one of the sectors by the GC members. That also would help. Like Vidya
So,
taking over some.
yeah, so essentially what we are also doing is that I think there's topical ownership which has been taken up by different people, both within the governing council as well as the task force. It's a mutually collaborative effort which is going on. We have Vidya from the GC who's leading the entire documentation effort, Ajay who's helping put together the dissemination platform through the microsite. Between Harish and myself, we are trying to interface with the authorities. Then there are multiple people from the task force who are contributing towards collating of information as far as service providers and credible information is concerned. I think it's a mutual effort going on. There'll be more and more hands that might be required going ahead in the days ahead. If any of the other GC members would have any inputs, points to share, please do so. And after that,
Vikram, I just posted the.
Yeah, this is Lalita.
Vikram, I just posted the question.
Yeah, we'll take questions, but I just wanted to offer the opportunity for any GC members to have any notes or comments.
Can I speak? Just a few. Hello?
Yes, Vidya, go ahead.
Vidya here, yeah. So on the since we are building a lot of content on these various info themes, I would like to appeal to the all the currently who has joined us to do share with us some of the practices that they have done successfully, because the situation is evolving and some of the things, for example, in one of the areas wherein we talked about the couriers and the parcels being contaminated, and so they need to be following certain procedures and all. And as it was later verified, it was like it's not required, it is not something of a necessity. But these are some things which people are just doing what is possible, what is doable, and so on. So while we work on all these things, we have put some, but we would also like to hear from people in terms of what they have done and if there are any challenges that they have, so that we can foster those things and these initiatives in this, on each of the 6 areas that we are building. That we, it is while we will put out a document, it will always be refreshed and updated as we keep moving along, right? So this is what I just wanted to convey.
Vikram, can I make a point? This is Shoma.
No, one second. I'll come to the question and answers.
Okay.
I think between the task force, I want people, if I have missed out on anything, I want people to cover those pieces first.
Actually, Harish has been informed that our cluster will be provided by myself as a task force member.
Sure. Alokji, that point is noted. I'm updating your details.
Okay, thank you.
So Vikram, hi, this is Amit from Electronic City. If required, I can also join the team.
Sure. For now, what we'll do, Amit, is I'm noting Alokji's name.
Yeah, sure.
But like I mentioned, we need to be able to grow those teams subsequently. My request is I'm going to publish the list of the leads for each of these clusters across, and please stay in touch with your respective leads so that the teams can grow as and when required. But
sure.
Thanks, Amit, for offering to join. Okay.
Yeah, this is Shubhendu from Electronic City team.
Shubhendu, yes.
Yeah, so from our cluster, even I am ready to represent in any ways that is possible.
Awesome. great to hear. I think we already see a team building, so we'll count on you guys. Let Alokji sort of be the lead, and then build a team around it. I will keep you guys posted on that.
Vikram, Kirti from Trinity. Can I just talk 1 second?
Okay, I think we'll anyway. Can I make a quick small request? I think there have been a couple of points which have come in over the chat itself. So I will once quickly go through that. One second. Can we move to Telegram? There's a question, can we move to Telegram? No, so at this point of time, see, we have a very established structure of clusters which are working on WhatsApp. I think we, at least at this point of time, we can't transition out of that, because those are very fundamental modes of communication which have been there, and people have got adjust to it. But of course, if there is a requirement to create a separate sort of a group eventually, which is much larger and needs a lot more people to join in, we'll probably consider a Telegram group on that, definitely. So that's one part. Okay. Amit, you already confirmed that you can join. Jameer's question, 14 days mandatory or the number of days can be increased by MCs? No, Jameer, at this point of time, the 14-day quarantine is a guideline, right, which has come from the government authorities. See, I think that is, there's a certain degree of logic and science behind that, right, in terms of why that 14 days is mandatory.
Vikram, I have one question. Basically, roaming around same quarantine area. Vikram, able to hear me?
I'll come to that.
Okay. Yeah.
Noise.
Okay.
Okay.
Vikram, the question is, can the MC takes the decision to increase the days for the safety?
Why would you want to do that, Jameer? My question would be back to you.
Not required, because there have been cases which have been reported even after 14 days. That's what, or 10, 12 days, like the singer got reported after the 14 days.
No. So I think the logic, Jameer, is that if you, and this logic applied for people at least till this stages, the belief was that if you are traveling from abroad, right, most likely if you're a carrier, right,
okay,
you would have picked it up in a place as and when you're coming to the country, and hence a 14-day life cycle is a reasonable life cycle for the evolution and disappearance of any infection, right? I think that's the logic and basis. I don't think so any extension at this point of time has been recommended by anybody, but what is implemented very, very strongly is the
14 days
quarantining, basically, right, to make sure that the quarantining quality of those 14 days is absolute, and hence it is followed meticulously, and this is a responsibility of people following the quarantine as well as people who are facilitating the quarantine. So as of now, I don't think so, at least from our point of view, there is no guideline to extend beyond 14 days.
Hi,
Got
Vikram.
it. Thank you, Vikram.
Yes, Shoma, please go.
Yeah. Hello, Vikram. Somebody else is talking.
I had asked her to wait, so I'll probably let her go first. Shoma, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thanks. I just want to understand one thing. The task force that you're creating, is it being built on the basis of clusters and regions of Bangalore, or is it an overarching, because you have given different areas, right? Like, self-quarantine, or, essential goods and services, stuff like that, So there are different areas that you have kind of determined where people should work. Now, is your task force an overarching task force for the whole of Bangalore, or is it just cluster-wise and area-wise?
No, yes, it is currently a geographical framework, Shoma, because that's how at least fundamentally that operates. Simply because we have the fundamental essence of the task force, and the initiation on that was to be able to provide a certain degree of interface and response bandwidth to our members. And since our members are spread across different parts of the city, and we are primarily organized as clusters. It was but natural for us to start the structure in that, which is why you will see one lead per cluster. But having said that, I think, like I mentioned, it will need to evolve. I think we'll still stick to the fact of growing the task force after the clusters. But within clusters, people will play different kinds of both horizontal role, thematically, some bit of vertical role, which is focusing on cluster interface. But that will evolve. As of now, like I said, it is important. See, we have most likely a meeting with BBMP tomorrow. They want to reach out to us to seek support. We have been, and this outreach happened to us sometime during mid to late last week. Most likely, there will be a meeting or a call tomorrow with them to be able to figure out. So our task force has to blend in very well in terms of how the authorities are also uh, driving the response strategy, right? So to that extent, I think based on what we hear from them, we will evolve accordingly as well. But having said that, yes, I think every cluster will have a bunch of people, whoever can join in and lend.
Okay, thanks.
Vikram, Bala here.
Yes, please.
Yeah, Vikram, just a quick question. The guidelines for associations on measures which the committee can take, would those be available on the microsite tomorrow?
Yes, we are hard at work, Bala, to put that together. Yes, it should. It will be a little iterative starting tomorrow as well, but I think for tomorrow we are trying to put together the most crucial, critical, and the most relevant pieces for now, right? Because we are at a stage, right? I think most of the people have sort of figured out and are clear about certain things. If you look at things like entry and all that kind of stuff, although I understand that will also evolve, right? Because now lockdown, what does it mean? Who can come? Who can't come? But at least certain fundamental things like hygiene, washing hands, all that I think has been traversed pretty well. What we will focus on is to have things which are things ready, which are the most relevant for the current time. So in that sense, tomorrow what we'll have the most relevant pieces of information. It will be up and running hopefully tomorrow.
See, the point which I wanted to actually add related to this is perhaps you may be addressing this, but there is quite a bit of dissent within say my apartment among residents on what practices they should follow, even though the committee may want to enforce a few things. So, and I think, and I don't know how you plan to address that, because the committee may want to say do or enforce or recommend say 10 points, and many residents don't really want to follow all the 10. So how do you really, how the committee can manage dissent within the apartment is something which we need to think about.
Fair point. We've got these queries multiple times. I think dissent is a hard word. Let's accept the fact, Bala, that we are in situations which nobody has been in earlier, right? So to that extent, I think it's a unique situation for everybody, residents, members, everybody. So I think it calls for a little bit of restraint in that sense. But having said that, I would look at it as 2 or 3 different levels, right? One level is where there is clear guidelines and policies which is coming in from the government straight away, which means there is no way that can be there dissent on that. For example, today there is a very clear guideline on home quarantining for people who have come from abroad, possibly for domestic travel as well going forward, right? Now, if that is a rule, you can technically, if somebody does not follow or is not cooperating on adhering to that rule, there can technically be an action, right? You can technically report to BBMP saying that there's a person who is coming from abroad, following home quarantine, right? So you can be that as far as strong declared rules and guidelines are concerned, as far as the government authorities are concerned. The second level that I would look at is something which people like federation like BAF, what we put together, I think will lend a bit of credibility. To that extent, as I mentioned in the beginning, please be rest assured that what we will share is qualified, verified information. To that extent, as committee members, if you were to use that and refer to that to your resident, I think that should be credible and give you some strength to say that this is it is, and hence we are using from the sense of authority is a strong word, but a sense of responsibility to influence you to follow certain practices, right? Like social distancing, right? It's really important for committees to influence residents to practice it strictly. Like I mentioned earlier, I even now see there being social groups in the evenings, sitting over here and
Vikram, my question was on the same line. Actually, I have a two case in my apartment, and local authority is telling that you guys make sure that this person is not roaming here and there.
probably slightly better engagement model going on with or authorities like that. It will soon happen. You got to mute your.
Yeah, so Vikram, my suggestion on that point is when you draft the guidelines, perhaps you should err on the side of being extra cautious rather than being safe.
No. So I think it's not so easy as that. Sure, we have seen previously that there have been guidelines which have been taken to the other extreme. For example, the home quarantining guidelines have ended up in ostracizing people and creating some bit of targeting on them. That's also possible, right? So I think we'll have to tread a little bit of a cautious line on that, so that guidelines like this are not misused for some other extreme. It should not be the unintended outcome of this. Should not be creating scenarios of panic and extremity, not just for our own residents, but also for all the other people. Like I've seen messages floating around on aspects like banning maids, workers, cooks, etc. I think sometimes we lose that perspective that we are all in this together. So to be able to create guidelines which are balanced in that sense, at least from a BAF's perspective, has become very, very important. But having said that, rest assured that I think the guidelines will be fairly descriptive and objective, right? So to be able to make sure that you are able to take the right call and choice. If at all anything, if any of you have a problem, a very evident problem with residents over there, do let us know. Where there is an obvious disrespecting or disregarding of guidelines, you can bring it to our attention, because we will be collaborating with authorities at a slightly senior and a leadership level. We'll probably be able to get attention of that nature. So sometimes it's quite possible that at a local level they might not be informed to take the call. In fact, today morning I heard a couple of people the quarantine checks, where it was a team of BBMP and Bangalore police. They seem to have heard people saying that there has been a way of medication which has been done via helicopters last night. I mean, it's as ridiculous as that, right? And these are cops who are informing the households. Maybe they are also grossly misinformed. They might have also picked it up from WhatsApp University. So we'll have to at least, if you have any cases of gross disregard to guidelines, please bring it. And you're finding it hard to handle that, you can bring it to our attention. We'll try to help on that matter.
No, see, there are some very simple measures. I'll just give you some examples.
So Bala, I think
just two or three, which are.
Bala, in the interest of time, I don't think so we can do a back and forth on specifics on this. So I think what I would request, if you are able to have a conversation separately with Vidya, she is helming the guidelining, right? And hence any inputs that you might have will be very, very useful to be shared so that she can factor. I think if we are able to move forward.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll call her.
Yeah, thanks.
I have one quick question. I am Tippaswamy from SLS Summerfields. We are collecting the information of the residents, those who traveled recently, that is after 1st March from the abroad. Is that can we disclose that information to among our residents with the flat numbers and names of the people? Is that legally valid or what?
Sir, I come back to that point which I mentioned earlier, right? I've had this query multiple times coming from people, right? If
Okay.
I, I honestly think, this is my personal opinion, I honestly think it is not necessary to disclose it to everybody, right? It is not,
Can I add
it
here,
is not,
Vikram, something?
I just
Vikram,
complete
can I
this and
clarify that? Yeah, sure.
I'll just complete because I've received at least good 7-8 queries on this basis, right? At least the approach should be, I definitely don't think that the revelation and disclosure of that to all the residents is completely essential, as long as the committee is able to create a sense of confidence that one, the people who are under home quarantine are well identified. Two, I think they are following the home quarantining process strictly. Three, the support is being given to them to be able to adhere and manage the home quarantining phase, right? If you ensure this, both the people who are under home quarantine are confident, the people who are not under that are also confident, right? So I don't think it is essential then to publish this, because I've seen instances where publishing these details is ending up creating ostracization, right? There is a victimization happening, saying that, you know what, that those people that, but like I mentioned,
Vikram, just one very important point. Ostracizing an elderly couple led to FIR against MC in Kerala. I just want to make that point here.
sure, point taken. That's what I'm saying, right? So there has to be a sense of balance. See, the committee's role over here is extremely crucial, right? To be able to strike this sense of balance. So I still believe that sharing of information to the entire community is not required, because you will not be under, at least you will not have the absolute sense of control as to how that information will be perceived and utilized, right? I think what you can do and what you can have in your control is to build a sense of confidence to the entire community, both the quarantine community as well as the non-quarantining community, to say that, you know what, hey, the situation is under control and we are facilitating the right thing to do, right? Of course, the authorities are coming and seeking some people on quarantining, but that you will have to give, definitely, right? Because they need to data for various
Quick
kinds.
one from Kirti here.
1 second, Kirti.
See, Vikram, there is
No, no,
one
one second,
small practical difficulty.
let me,
Hello.
okay, I'll come back to that case. Let Vidya complete her point.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, sorry. What I wanted to say was on the quarantine, the traveler information and the quarantine front. There is no need to reveal it to the entire community. If there are one or two such cases, I mean, this is asymptomatic that I'm talking about, then it can be handled by the small task force team within. I mean, it is at this point in time possibly a good practice to create your own internal, COVID-19 team at the apartment level. It could be managing committee, it could be comprising some other members outside of the committee as well. So let the information be within that, as long as it is that one or two or three asymptomatic, quarantined persons, and let this task force check on them every other day. And since this is a team, and I think many apartments also, there are security guards and others who also observe these people moving about and all. One gets to know if they have not followed it in that sense, right? So it is, I think, as of now, from the advisory point of view, there is a need to maintain discretion in terms of revealing the names. But yes, tomorrow the governments may come up with a different advisory. In fact, in some other states, there are also governments which have come up with this thing, saying that they are quarantined, and let the people also know about it. So I think we have to handle it with a sense of kind of a balance, to say that, hey, because they are in quarantine, they are also equally scared about something happening to them, right? It is not as if they want to do something deliberately. So they want to keep themselves safe, and also sensitize them to the fact that not only you, but keep your neighborhood also safe. So it is only for this reason, and this is what even the authorities require us to do. So I think this is where we should leave it. And I think from at least here, it is the fact that the police are also visiting some of these all the international travelers whom they have a list of since 1st March. And once they put a stamp onto their palm, it's very much obvious that they are, under quarantine. So I think a little balance of observing their own self, this thing. We in our community know our neighborhood, and we know the way that they may react or respond. So with that kind of this thing, we should take this ahead. I think we should have some sensitivity in these kind of things and just not announce it to all and suddenly.
I
So Vidya, I have
completely
one
agree
question
with
here.
this, Vidya. I am completely
I
agree
have
with.
one.
Sorry, Anupji, 1 second. I think Kirti had a question at top there.
Yeah,
Please.
Okay.
Vikram, what I was trying to say is we had a case wherein a person who had given for testing and did not get the report for 2 days. And though they're supposed to be on quarantine, they had to personally go and collect it. Almost for 4 days, they didn't get the report and they had to go and personally collect. And I think with your meeting with to make people online or through 104, it would help quite a lot of people psychologically, as well as, not to help out.
Sorry, your voice was in and out, but if I understood you correctly, Kirti, you said that the report back, right, for people who are under test, if there is a little more predictability and clarity on that. Is that correct? If I understood.
Yes, because they cannot get the reports right now. They have to personally go and collect for them. It's not right for them to get and collect it. So it is very important that BBMP makes it available online or through.
Fair
So
enough. I think your voice is in and out. Fair enough. I think that's a great point. We will keep that in mind to say that how can there be, ease of receiving of reports without them having to. I mean, it's a great point, right? First of all, they are under quarantine, right? And if they have to then
yes,
themselves then go and
imagine
collect
that.
fair point. I think we can give that suggestion to say, is there any mechanism where the reporting can be made? And yeah, I think an online is a good mechanism if they can publish the report through some secure mechanism for them to access. At least that will ease off the
Because
issue.
104 is also not helpful on that. So either they should make it available to 104 because give a
Now is So the point taken. I think 104 right now is has been bombarded. I think with today, in fact, they have published a bunch of other numbers as well.
Yeah.
I just let me just pull that out for all of you so that you can make a note of it as well. There are a bunch of other numbers which are part of BBMP and the Department of Health's communication lines. Yeah, so it's not just 104, there are a bunch of other numbers as well. I'll pull that out right now. Yeah, so if you notice,
Vikram,
can I quickly take
can I interrupt?
take 10 seconds? I'll just read out the numbers if you want to quickly note down. Other than 104, there's also 1075, which is the other helpline number. These are the two easily rememberable numbers, 104 and 1075. There are also other numbers, landline numbers. There is 080 4684 8600. That is 080 4684 8600 and 080 6669 2000. 080 6669 2000. Then there are a few other jurisdictional zonal control rooms as well. We will publish this in all the groups basically so that you can have this handy. I think it's easier that way. Yes, somebody else had a question.
Vikram, can you also share the framework that you used initially? Having at least those bullet points will help us to prepare ourselves till the time you send detailed guidelines.
Definitely, we'll do that. We'll share that framework across so that at least you're aware what are the points to. We'll do that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Vikram, I have one question here.
Yes.
So when there are people under self quarantine, then at that point of time, is it? Is the association authorized to not allow maid or cook to visit their house, because the same people could be visiting 10 other flats in the apartment? Because otherwise, it defeats the purpose of having a self quarantine and then visitors coming in who is going to other apartment also.
Yes,
How
good
do we
point.
handle that?
Yeah, I think good point. If like we have had instances in our member communities where the quarantining process has been fairly absolute. I'll give you an example of one of the members in BTM layout. Pretty much, there's a girl who was coming in from the US. Before she arrived, there was a strong and clear quarantining guidelines which was sent to us. So right from the airport till she reached a room which was an exclusive closed room with an attached bathroom, and there was clear instructions put. So she has managed to get into the home and quarantine herself. Right? So that's a very everybody will do that. In general, I think most of the households where the quarantining would have happened will not have ensured that such level of primary contact distancing might not have been done, and hence I think it becomes essential that people who are under quarantining, in order to avoid any primary contact, any entry exit to that needs to be stopped, right? Otherwise, there's no point in quarantine.
Yeah. So the question is association authorized to do that?
See, yeah,
Like not.
yes, right. See, authority and or no authority is a wrong word over here, is that Amit? See, we have to do the right thing. See, if that at the end, the logic is very simple, right? You are quarantining yourself so that you do not bring any spreads through any means, right? Which means there might have been a person who traveled towards quarantining. If there's a family who's staying with that person, they are primary contacts. So the home quarantining then applies to the family. They need to quarantine themselves, and we need to help them in terms of staying within this quarantine, right? Now it defeats the purpose if there is somebody else who's going and coming out, right? How does it even serve the purpose? So yes, I think quarantining requires some bit of action.
With 144 coming in, Vikram, is there any guidelines on construction sites inside communities? Would you have any idea about that?
Not at this moment. I don't think so. Construction inside the communities. You mean to say any repairs and works?
No, complete new constructions. Constructions that are going on for laborers coming in, and because 144 means it limits them to 4 people, right?
No, I do know that, but I'm just trying to understand the query from the department. Is there some new construction, extended construction going on in your building?
Yeah, if there is a construction site going on.
Yeah, so I think that's a little, out of scope. At least I don't know. I have clarity on whether it applies specifically to construction or not. We can find out.
Can you please check on this?
Fair enough, but again, I'm not very convinced on the applicability of that question to apartment.
Okay.
But we can check. Yeah, we can check. So what does that mean? Sure. Next, anybody?
Hey, Vikram, this is Sita here.
Yes, Sita, go ahead.
Vikram, I think what she meant was even in our apartment, there are a couple of flats that people are getting renovated and a lot of labor work is coming inside. So I think the question was, in such situations, should we allow them to come or should we restrict everybody till the 31st?
I think better avoided, Sita. Most of the member communities are opting to stop all non-essential services, right? I think at least my opinion would be to classify something like a renovation and stuff under a non-essential category, right?
Correct. That's good. I was getting a lot of queries about this, hence I asked the question.
Definitely.
Vikram,
Vikram, I think the priority here is health, stopping or preventing the virus from coming into societies. And therefore, any such activity like construction should not be there.
And may I add on the same note, are we also preventing it from going out? So
Hello.
So can this be checked with the BBMP people tomorrow? Because I believe someone has gone ahead after we requested for this, and BBMP says there's no such guidelines given. So can this be checked on?
What can be checked on? Sorry.
The construction part of it, with laborers coming in.
I mean, there is no guideline
The
as.
entire conversation.
Please, can I make a request? Please also appreciate the fact that people at BBMP are sort of putting their heads together and minds together for a multitude of things, right? They will not be able to go down fine grain into this level of extent to make big intervention and other things, right? Yet, somebody will have to apply a bit of coordination there. As I said, I think something like renovation of houses, etc., is purely non-essential at this point. I think it's in the interest of the communities and the community to be long lasting time. So at this point of time, I think everybody is any.
Yeah, Vikram, this is Amit. I have a question. Actually, just yesterday night was a person visited from Singapore in our society, and he is here for particular work. That means he has to go to another office in next 10 days time.
Not, I mean, this is is Indian national?
Yeah, he's an Indian national. He's here for some personal work, means he has to be there before 30th. And in case if that he missed this month and time, then there will be many challenges because I have to speak to him in detail to which office he has to go. But he's specifically for this meeting on 30th. So I don't know how this can be addressed.
Amit, it's a very point question pertaining to one person, right? Everybody who comes in from abroad are currently under strict home quarantine guidelines. There is no bigger challenge and mission at this time to be able to control. I think it is not beyond anybody.
And this issue, there is no debate at all. I think it is a simple no for that.
Absolutely. I think the answer is a no. They can't. They have to quarantine themselves. Nothing like that.
Sure.
No, the 14 days quarantine, that is from the government itself, I think, for all the people who are traveling from abroad. So there is no question of asking him or something or making him go into a new office. That will create. He is not doing.
No, I think the policy on that is very clear here. I mean, and it's not like a one-off thing, right? It is now the world is in siege, right? Not just India. So there are strict and at least in India right now, it is so critical to control any spread. So no, definitely no second thoughts about it. I think there has to be a quarantining if you come from abroad.
Not negotiable.
Non-negotiable.
Vikram,
Absolutely.
Vikram, just want to share a quick
hello.
thing, Vikram. I need
Yes,
only
Jimmy,
10
go ahead.
seconds. Okay.
Yes.
See, I spoke to medical officer today based on the people those who have got quarantine in my apartment. They cannot use the AC and air purifier in their homes strictly for
Yes.
14 days. That's the
Okay.
advice given by the medical officer.
AC
Just
is
wanted to
banned.
pass.
Sorry, which medical officer is this? Please be specific.
Let me give you that name. Just a moment. It was shared by
Of information because as to whom it came from, because then it has to be credible and real.
It came from Ravi Shankar.
Hey, this is
Dr. Ravi Shankar.
government. Vikram, he is part of the contact tracking team.
Okay.
It came from Dr. Ravi Shankar, medical officer.
Sure. Can you, Jamir, it will be useful if you can just put this in a small text and send it, factor this into the guidelines.
Sure, definitely. Yeah. Thank you.
I don't understand this
Vikram,
because air
hello.
purifiers and these are really needed for people with respiratory problems. So why this guideline? I have no idea.
No, Shoma will qualify this at this point of time. It's an input. I think let's validate that as well, right? So let's not debate on whether it's right or wrong. First, let's figure out whether it's been I mean, it's a right input. If there is a right formal input, I think it might have been thought through definitely, but at least let's give it that option. Next question.
Yeah, Vikram, this is Vijay from Electronic City. It's
Yes.
again about the home quarantine. Is there any guidelines or any do's and don'ts on, for the people who are home quarantine? Like Amit earlier asked about maids visiting their house, or like just mentioned, ACs or, air purifier should not be used. So is there any published guidelines by government or BBMP or anything in this direction?
No, so the home quarantine guidelines have been published already, Vijay. It's reasonably clear, right, in terms of how you need to quarantine. It has been published earlier as well. I think what are the nuances which are coming out now is a little bit more specific in terms of maids, etc., and all that, right? Which obviously it might not have been detailed to that extent, but that it is simple common sense, right? Quarantining is essentially to avoid and restrict any contact, right? Contact to surfaces, contact to people, right? Contact to surfaces obviously won't happen, they're sitting inside. Contact to people will not happen if there are no other people going there, basically, right? So I think that's pretty much the length and breadth of it. The rest of it, how to support them, how can you help them? There are lots of ideas of people who have implemented initiatives in local communities. They have formed small volunteer groups, neighbor groups, WhatsApp groups, staying in touch with them, seeking their well-being. There are communities which have prepared food and shared with them. There are communities which have requested them to put a bag outside so that essential commodities can be dropped inside that, etc., and all that. Multiple ideas are happening. Yeah, I think some bit of cross-pollination of that is happening in groups, cluster groups. My sincere request to cluster leaders, right, is to play a proactive role on sharing these things, right, and not a lot of I think a lot of best practices is where we can then help each other transmit, because that is supremely useful, right? Because something done well in one cluster being shared with people in other cluster. Please also bear with us that it is physically not possible for a few of us to do that, constantly monitoring the groups. The cluster leaders are best positioned. There is an exclusive cluster leaders group where a lot of this cross-pollination is happening. So my sincere request to cluster leaders is to take priority on sharing information which may be useful in other clusters to follow. A lot of official guidelines, notes, policies, updates, etc., will eventually anyway come, right? 10, 15 people sharing that and publishing that is not really helpful. It will just create a lot of traffic. That's it. But yes, I think definitely sharing of best practices is useful, and we'll continue to do that. Okay, next, I will wind down in, I think, a little bit. I think this has been a good session to address a lot of queries. We will explore this format run on an ongoing basis.
Vikram, one question, Vikram, just to clarify. What is our take on people who are traveling from other states? I mean, we know what is the protocol to be followed for people traveling from abroad, but for people traveling from other states like Kerala or Tamil Nadu or any other states, do we have any protocol for that, for quarantine or stuff like that?
Not yet. What I believe is there are certain protocols which are coming into for domestic travel starting from today. That's what I briefly saw as part of this next level lockdown. There's also restrictions in terms of domestic. I don't know whether there is quarantining guidelines which are being put together for domestic travel, because I don't know how to implement that. It is very tough to determine domestic travel history, right? At least in case of international travel, there's very strong documentation in terms of how people are moving around, coming in, etc. But domestic travel is a little bit of a challenge. But yes, the simple answer to that question is there are no current guidelines on domestic travel.
Do we need to inform BBMP or something like that for such people? I mean, in case,
because there is no way they can also respond to you on that, right? Unless there is an approach or a clarity on what to do, right? At this point of time, I think we still have to believe that the community spread is only starting. We'll have to encourage, at least what I've heard, at least today, the government of Karnataka has instructed people not to rush back and go back to their hometowns, etc., because that's a way then a latent problem from here is taken to somewhere else, right? So there are some of those things which are coming about, but at this point of time, I don't think so. You will have to reach out and say that, hey, somebody has come from Kerala, what do I do? Because most likely they will not know the answer. So let's not speculate on that at this point of time. But yeah, let's see how it evolves. At this point of time, at least travel is out of the quarantining.
Vikram, today, government of
Yes, sir.
Karnataka has taken a decision that the entry from Maharashtra is slightly restricted because of the fact that there are a lot of cases in Maharashtra, but not the other parts of these different states, except Maharashtra. We are not aware fully about it. Government has taken restricting the entry of those vehicles, etc., persons from Maharashtra to this one and the borders. Anyway, what they are expecting from our cluster leaders is on the sort of monitoring, and there will be some contact points for each one of us. The doctor. We are not doctors. We are not BBMP. We have been requested to monitor these things because we stay in that area. Let us know that. Thirdly, any of the small issues, we did not have to go for clarification in case of maids. See, the bylaw of the association, it should be brought to the MC. The bylaw of the association empowers the MC to take any decision on any of the issues in the interest of the community. So we will have to leave it to the MC where it is not clear. Suppose clear, tomorrow the BPMP says maids cannot enter the quarantine houses, then it's clear. If in the absence of that, it is left to the association. And what they have done is they have stamping the people who are coming in from abroad. That itself is an indication that they are there. If they are found moving around and all that, immediately association then tell the people that not to do so.
I'll quickly summarize also the points which have been announced today as part of this thing, and it's on the screen as you see. Today's Government of Karnataka's decisions. Point number one, all public transport shall stay cancelled from tomorrow. All AC bus services will stay suspended until March 31st, 2020. Right? So that's point number one. Section 144 to be imposed in the state from 9 p.m. to 12 p.m. midnight, 12 midnight, today after Janta curfew ends. And that is specifically because there was a viral campaign which was going on, which had indicated or at least pointed towards the fact that the virus is only alive for 12 hours because the curfew is for 14 hours. After that, we'll have a control on the spread and all that kind of stuff, right? I think, and this has been specifically imposed because then you do not want people to assume that once the curfew gets over, I mean, it's back to normal, right? And we have crossed the barrier, right? So that is why, and hence I insist as to why it is very important for us to be able to be very, very objective in sharing the information that we are sharing across. This is a classical case where this one piece of misinformation sort of got spread so much that it has ended up having to create some specific measures around it. Point number three, all commercial activities except medical stores, grocery and agricultural services in the districts of Bengaluru Urban, Bengaluru Rural, Mangaluru, Mysuru, Kalburgi, Dharwad, Kodagu and Belagavi districts suspended until March 31st. This again brings back to the point, right? All commercial activities cancelled, only except essential services, medical stores, grocery and agricultural services. Industrial establishments in the above districts that employ a large number of workers are instructed to deploy them in half numbers on alternate days. Inter-district transport also suspended in these districts till March 31st. So these are some of the key announcements that have been made today, if you notice. So I think we'll bring this session to an end. Thank you all for joining in. I think, and some of these pieces that we shared today, we'll send it across in the groups. We should hopefully have the microsite up and running sometime by later tomorrow with some of the essential pieces of information that you can refer to. And we will also try and possibly keep these Q&A sessions going on through this week. I think it's useful to be able to converse and communicate and keep people informed. This web conference format has worked a lot. Just to inform all the people, we have, I mean, this is just a Q&A session. We have had good information sessions running through the day through a series that we ran called BAF starting from 8 in the morning. I think it received a fair bit of support. A lot of people joined those sessions. If required, we need to be prepared for this long haul marathon through connectivity in this format. My sincere request is, and since many of you people who are attending over here are committee members, please stay strong, please stay energetic. You people are in the extremely responsible leadership roles as far as your respective communities are concerned. And to that extent, my sincere appreciation and I think a round of claps should go to you guys as well. I think a part of what happened today at 5 p.m. I would definitely reflect upon it being reserved for you all as well. Because I think we're in a very, very tough situation trying to guide people who are nervous, who are scared, have a lot of queries, questions. There are scenarios in your apartments where there could be some bit of friction, polarization, panic spreading. But I think you people are all in roles where you need to guide, motivate, and keep your community strong and responsible, right? So to that extent, a great job, all of you. We'll keep this conversation going on, and in case of any other questions, please feel free to reach out to one of us. I will publicly share list of the task force members as well. So we will try our best to be able to respond and answer to your queries as soon as possible. So, thank you all.
Can I speak?
Hey, hi. Welcome.
Thank you.
Vikram, can I speak?
Thank you. Thank you, Vikram.
Vikram, are you still there? Are you still there, Vikram?
Sorry?
Vikram, can I speak?
Are you still there, Vikram?
Shankar Ram sir, I'll speak to you offline. I'll give you a call and clarify any queries that you might have. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll give you a call. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Vikram.
Look forward to a good, strong week. Hope to control the stem the flow. We will stay in touch. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will.
All.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Good night. All the best.
Thank you for all your effort.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Point of time is 100.
ഇതെങ്ങനെയാണ് ഇതിന്ന് പുറത്തു പോണത്? ഈ